Hi, my name is Lanny Matthews, and I am the owner and founder of Field Reconnaissance Canada, or Field Recon. And this presentation is a brief overview of our company, a little bit of when and how we started, what problems we were looking to solve, and ultimately some of the services that we offer. So we were founded in 2019, and we really had one primary purpose, and that was to provide street view imagery to the energy industry. And obviously there's a lot of different technologies that are used, LiDAR, NADAR, and oblique imagery, point cloud data, satellite imagery. There's a lot of different types of footage and mobile mapping data that is used. But one thing that we really found missing from experience was the boots on the ground street view perspective. And so that missing perspective is really what started us on this path of moving forward and trying to provide this particular data set. And as such, we started in 2019 and have been going since. So a little bit about Street View and why Street View is an advantageous technology and why it might be worth your while to use is Street View imagery provides an on-demand ground level perspective of remote locations. So there's a lot of times where individuals or teams send people out to go take pictures or go inspect or go visit these remote locations. And with Street View, it really certainly supplements and in many cases can just replace that. There's sufficient perspective that you can get out of a Street View that really mutes the need to physically go and travel to those meetings. Another reason is the footage is easy to use and understand, and it integrates well inside of existing GIS solutions. Thanks to Google Street View and Google Maps, the Street View technology has been used by pretty much everybody. It's probably the most intuitive. Yes, using satellite imagery is also very much so, but most people have experience using Street View technology. It's not complicated. However, it's very powerful to just give that immediate perspective of the world around you and what these remote locations are like without actually being there. So the change management is very intuitive. It allows on-site team meetings with the click of a mouse. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's wherever, whenever. You can have teams working from home. You can have teams working internationally. You can have teams working in large urban centers and with these remote projects. It just doesn't matter. With the click of a mouse and screen sharing through Teams or Zoom, you can drop on site together and literally walk through a site together, and there's no inefficiencies of travel. And if you think of how much wasted time and money is spent just sending someone out or a couple people out to go see a site, and all that dead time of driving and just moving around, there's just no value add in that. And so Street View can really help with that, and it can really ensure that the activities that teams are doing are value add, and there's a safety factor as well, just keeping people off the road and out of travel when they don't need to be. Another advantage, another reason why you might want to use it is it's a very fast turnaround from the time you deploy it to data capture, post-processing through project delivery. It's a very fast technology. You can do tremendous amounts, distances of footage and processed, in many cases, literally next day. So it's very fast and it's cost effective. It's a very competitive, cost effective technology. So in terms of applications, these are just a few of the applications that could be considered applicable for the technology, but documenting access roads, approaches, driving surfaces. A lot of times when crews show up to a site, they may have, say, an excavator on a lowboy. Well, that truck and trailer may not fit everywhere. Certain roads may not be conducive to that. And just being able to better plan where you're going to have to load, where you may need extra temporary workspace, what condition the roads are in, elevation changes, those sorts of things. Graveled surfaces, knowing what's graveled, knowing what's not, knowing where there's bar ditches, knowing where it's just at grade, knowing where it's built up. These are just the small things that Street View can really just help teams understand immediately. And it's just very, very intuitive way to do that. Another thing actually is access mats. So when you're using access matting, there's projects where there's miles of access matting used, and documenting the condition of those mats when they're laid down and also before they're picked up. It's very difficult. It's difficult to hold this particular area of the business accountable because it's tough to document what was the after condition of some of these matting, for instance. And the replacement value of mats is very costly, and the use of mats is very costly. But an organization and companies can now have visual documentation of the condition of the matting before it's picked up, and you can actually keep an eye on that remotely as well using Street View. Confined and protected spaces. So there's a lot of places that may require operational or field inspectors or field personnel to help your team gain access to if they do go to the field. So there's logistics and lining that up, and then there's people in these areas that it's better if they're not. And Street View the Street View technology can help capture it once and just share it with whomever needs to see it from the safety of their offices. And it can reduce traffic in some of these very sensitive areas, and can certainly reduce the hassle factor and the nuisance of just trying to get people into these locations, and actually lets them see it more often. They just see it whenever they need to. Surface leases, meter sites, pigging risers, again, condition of them, different infrastructure that may be on them, access roads if you're tanking oil out of a lease, having your trucking company perhaps have access to see each lease and know how they're going to get in, or if new drivers come in, they can show them what they're getting into and really understand the sites specifically. Scouting and planning. So quite often people will be sent out, team members will be tasked with going out to inspect or scout a route for a pipeline or siting leases, and they're taking a few photos. Quite often they're not referenced, and when they do take those photos, they're relaying their interpretation of what they saw. And quite often there's a lot of different groups that need that data. You could have land, environment, perhaps even legal, regulatory, compliance, engineering, design, your technical groups. And so it's very unlikely that the person that's out scouting is going to be wearing all of those hats and thinking of all of those different needs when they're actually on site looking for this information and seeing what's out there. However, Street View allows the entire site to be captured, and everyone with their own perspective can stand on site and take a look for themselves. And so that's very powerful. Reclamation, construction, compliance inspections, compliance and safety. So just knowing what was done, what fencing was installed, what was reseeded, what was the condition of a right-of-way. When it comes to construction, were the proper fencing installed around bell holes, were for safety, were overhead power lines properly marked. You can actually do a lot of auditing and self-auditing from the back office by having this imagery, and it's just done on an as-required basis. Stakeholder engagement, better communicating with stakeholders. You could literally step on site with them and there's no safety impact. Through screen sharing and technology, you can stand on site together, remote in your offices, and really share an on-site experience with them as well. That's a powerful application. Pre-job orientation and new employee onboarding. So this is whether you're going to a job for the first time, or perhaps you're kicking off a project and your vendors, or maybe you're even going out to tender and you're getting quotes for a project. Your bidding contractors or the contractors coming in to do the work can have a full boots on the ground tour. They don't need to go disturb landowners. They don't need to go out and drive miles and miles just to go see this. They can actually see the footage if granted access themselves, and they can stand on site themselves and they can see the parts that, if there's a bunch of rocks sticking up, well, you're probably going to see extras for, for pipelining. rocks are expensive. And so, but those are also things that when contractors try to come back for extras afterwards, if there's things that they should have seen upfront before they tender bid the job, and you can demonstrate that the access was provided to them, the full on-site access, it does also help deal with those, the negotiating of the extras, those extra charges post-construction. As far as new onboarding, new employee onboarding, so this is a very powerful application where when you have new employees, perhaps they haven't physically seen all of these locations, and frankly, in today's world, they may not ever physically see these locations. Traveling is just less common. Our business is changing, and Street View really allows these employees to have an boots on the ground experience with the site without ever actually having to necessarily breathe the air of that site. But they can stand there, they can see it, they can go through it with their supervisors or their design teams or whichever team they're part of, and they can get an orientation of what specific sites are all about and really understand them and have a visual understanding, again, without all of the downtime and the travel and the expense and all of those things that would normally be required to get that employee out to site. Training and emergency response. Training, I touched on that a little bit already with the new employee onboarding, but emergency response, there's times where, whether it's a gas release or a fire event, an explosion, I have personal knowledge where there was an incident and the nature of the incident made it impossible for the first responders and the emergency responders that were responsible for remediating the site to actually access the location. And because of that, they didn't have prior knowledge of the site. So they were poring over schematics and technical drawings, trying to understand what's what and what's where, when really had that site been visually documented using Street View prior to, they could have actually been given a visual tour and seen the before condition of that site and had a much better idea of what was required, and they would have been brought up to speed much faster because they would just be more familiar with that site, despite the fact that they only came in at a point when they couldn't actually access the site to gain that knowledge otherwise. So those are a couple applications that I think are quite valuable. In terms of equipment, we use commercial grade camera equipment, and our camera features 6 lenses. It provides 8K plus street views, which are 8192 by 4096 pixels, and 8K would be 7680 by 4320, about there. So it's 8K plus is accurate. Our system uses GNSS receivers with integrated IMU leveling for accurate, and that provides accurate georeferencing and the ability to level our imagery. And there's also RTK connectivity for increased accuracy as an optional extra. There's commercial grade equipment, and then there's consumer grade equipment, and even within the commercial grade equipment, there's some differences that are quite important. So some other systems they require individual SD cards to be capturing the data from individual lenses. So if there's, say, a camera like this where there's 6 lenses, you would require 6 SD cards to be capturing the 6 lenses. That data has to be imported onto your system separately with individual cards and then brought together for post-processing. What this system does is we actually use a Samsung Evo solid-state hard drive. It's a commercial-grade solid-state hard drive, and anywhere from 250 gigs to a terabyte of space, which allows for an enormous amount of data capture in one run, if necessary. And that means that this system allows all 6 cameras to be recording to the same hard drive. So it basically means more reliable data capture, fewer opportunities for corruption, file corruption, and SD cards were not intended for commercial applications like this, yet many of the other systems use that. This system does use a much more robust data storage system, which ultimately is its reliability to both us and to our clients. In terms of data capture methods, really it's everything but aerial. So whether it's a rooftop, on a vehicle, on the top of a side-by-side, that's actually a very good application. I've used it on a golf cart before. That's a very good application. We have a backpack, so we can walk with it. We can ride the ATV with the camera system. We can set it on a tripod and have individual release photos. We can put it on boats or Argos or really anything else other than UAVs or any rotary or fixed wing aircraft. It's land-based. Now, in terms of playing the street views, the street views themselves it's mobile mapping data, and it can be integrated into existing GIS systems. However, it may require, depending on what your system is, how robust your GIS system is, you may require a player or something to essentially host the footage and play the footage, depending what system you otherwise are running. If you do need to add a player to integrate with your GIS solution to play the panoramic data and essentially allow you to be interactive with it and use it, there's two recommended systems, software systems that I would recommend. The Applied Street View software is the company that actually manufactures the camera system that we are currently using. And they do provide software that allows you to integrate this footage into ArcGIS, pretty much anything else. They'll build what is needed to get it into pretty much any other integration you may need. And there is a benefit to this. It's probably a less costly option in the long run, but it is hardware specific. So it basically is specific to the Applied Street View camera, again, which is one type of mobile mapping data. So it's hardware specific. The next one is 3dmapping.cloud, and this is Orbit GT. It's now Bentley Systems, Bentley Technology, and this is probably industry-leading software. There's different options that you can go with this company. It's not necessarily more expensive depending on how much it's scaled. However, it could be a bit more money, but this is hardware agnostic. So whether you're using any of the data sets such as LiDAR, oblique imagery, nadar, point cloud, panoramic, it doesn't matter what the technology is or what the data set is, it can be brought into this solution. And this solution also has pre-built APIs for MicroStation, Autodesk, ArcGIS, QGIS. So there's widgets that appear once installed on your native GIS system, and it allows you to stay in your GIS system and open and close this data directly from your existing GIS system. So very powerful tool. The cloud-based tool is very interesting. It actually brings the power of LiDAR and point cloud and panoramas all onto your cell phone or onto your tablet. So if you have individuals in the field, if they have a tablet, they can literally use this technology using their LTE connectivity, and it really is quite impressive. So in the event that you wish to contact us for either a discussion on what we offer in greater detail or how we can work with you, or to schedule some demo work and just see what we can do, you can reach us by phone, email, or online at our website, www.fieldrecon.ca. And other than that, I thank you for your time, and we certainly hope we have the opportunity to discuss further with you and work with you. Until then, have a great day, and thanks again.